What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and show where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the March 11, 2023 edition of the SmackDown LowDown, being hosted by Jackie Redmond and Matt Cam. Matt Cam not in person for this episode. He was homesick, I believe, but like a fucking champ, he zooms in anyway, or whatever he was calling in with. But he was on the episode regardless. So because he wasn't in the studio, the slight change to the show this week was that they didn't have Camp and Redmond talking over the replays and recaps of the matches. They would simply just replay the match. Obviously not in its entirety, but like the final few minutes or like the highlight of the match or the promo, whatever. So that allowed me more time to kind of skip over that stuff because I don't really care about that stuff anyway, but didn't really make much of a difference in the long run. But to open up the episode, they replay the ending to the show that saw Cody Rhodes get saved by Sami Zayn against the Usos to close out the episode. They also replay the Fatal 5-Way in the finish there that saw Sheamus and Drew McIntyre emerge victorious in the number one contenders 5-Way for the Intercontinental Championship, number one contender spot at WrestleMania. Sheamus is shown backstage with Megan Morant and the rest of the Brawling Brutes, Butch, Ridge Holland, extremely frustrated, pushing Butch and Ridge around, saying that, listen, Drew piggybacked off of me, and that he went behind his back for a shot at the Intercontinental Championship, and this is all I've ever wanted. He knows this is my only goal, and he's not happy about it. So they'll settle that score next week on SmackDown when they go one-on-one. Winner earns an Intercontinental Championship opportunity at WrestleMania. I'm hoping that also ends in a non-finish to set up a triple threat, but fingers crossed. Matt Camp in the studio, he is not in the studio for the episode, but you know what I mean. He says that this is Sheamus' only goal. It's what he's always it's what he's really always wanted, is winning that championship and becoming the ultimate Grand Slam champion in WWE. And in order to do that, it's going to have to come at the expense of Drew McIntyre, and vice versa. Drew's going to have to, if he wants that championship and dethrone Gunther, that's also going to have to come at the expense of Sheamus. So we'll find out next week again. Fingers crossed for a not finish, double countout, DQ, whatever, setting up that triple threat for WrestleMania. Matt Cam talks about Rey Mysterio's career and how worthy he is of being inducted into the Hall of Fame after what we saw happen on SmackDown. They replay the final few minutes of the Judgment Day Legado del Fantasma match, the post-match promo exchange between Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio. They also replay the Charlotte Flair and Shotzi match in the post-match promo there with Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. So a lot of replays here. Backstage, Dominic and Rhea catch up with Megan Morant, and Megan Morant interviews them about how Dominic disrespected Rey, and Rhea went face-to-face with Charlotte. Dom says that the only Hall of Fame that his father belongs in is the Deadbeat Dad Hall of Fame. He calls him washed up and old. He says he does not belong in the WWE Hall of Fame. It is definitely not too soon for Rey. Rey's obviously worthy of the Hall of Fame. To induct him while he's still active is weird, but if it ties into the storyline, I'm completely fine with that because that's pretty cool. But anyway, Rhea says that she's currently in Charlotte's head, and she's going to take the one thing that makes Charlotte Flair relevant, and that's the SmackDown Women's Championship. She's going to be walking out of WrestleMania with that SmackDown Women's title, whether Charlotte likes it or not. Matt Cam talks about how Rhea says that Charlotte is defined by her many championship reigns and always being in the title picture. From a storyline standpoint, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because why the fuck would you not want to be in the storyline, or rather, not be in the title picture? Like, from a booking standpoint, it's one thing to complain about. It's like saying, oh, you're always put in the top spot, you're always booked to win. But in storyline sense, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, Charlotte in storyline is that good to be earning these opportunities, and sometimes she is given championship opportunities out of nowhere. But other than that, to be defined by the championships, why would that be a bad thing in storyline, So Cam talks about that and how Charlotte's 4-2 at WrestleMania. They also talk about the Rey Mysterio family drama with him and Dominic, and Jackie said that they should put their differences aside for the Hall of Fame, but we all know that's not going to fucking happen. They replay the final finishing sequence of the Viking Raiders tag team match and win over Braun Strowman and Ricochet. They also replay the ending to the show that I mentioned earlier, Sami Zayn saving Cody Rhodes from the Usos. So they actually showed that in its entirety. Again, they replayed it at the beginning of the show, and since there was no recap, they replayed it again here. So we got it twice. It was a good angle, I guess, but I don't know if it was great enough to warrant replaying twice, but I get the circumstances. Jimmy Uso, in an interview backstage with Megan Morant alongside Jay as well, said that Cody's getting involved in bloodline business. It's not his business. He's getting involved in it, specifically with the Usos. It has nothing to do with him. He will let Roman Reigns take care of Cody Rhodes. Jay gets in the mic and says, listen, Sammy, I did what I did because you're not family. Jimmy Uso is my family. He's my brother. And I'm calling you out to the ring next week. Now, Sammy did the same thing to Jimmy last week on the SmackDown LowDown. It led to a match, and he was very, kind of outright with the fact that he was challenging Jimmy to a match on Raw in Boston this past week. Now, they didn't mention that here, though. They didn't mention anything about a match. He said to meet him in the ring, but when we got back in the studio, Matt and Jackie were acting as if he was referring to, explaining his actions to Sammy and not having a match. I honestly would not do the match next week. Jay and Sammy is probably the real crux of the storyline. For a lot of people, that's the fucking WrestleMania match. If you're going to do that at all, it's got to be closer to Mania. Now, I know we're close to Mania as it is. We're just a couple of weeks away, but I would save that for the go-home show or another point down the road. I would not do that randomly on Raw. And I mean, I'll be at Raw this week in Providence, but I wouldn't randomly do it without announcing it ahead of time, like even further in ahead of time, or announcing it further beyond the SmackDown LowDown that not a lot of people watch, let's be honest. So hopefully it is just for an in-ring explanation. It sounds like it might happen on SmackDown. They didn't say anything about Raw. It could happen on Monday, but when Sammy challenged Jimmy on the SmackDown LowDown last week to a match on Raw, he made it very obvious he wanted the match on Raw. They didn't say anything about Raw here, so it very well could be SmackDown next week. Regardless, Matt Camp questions Jay only doing it for Jimmy and says that Roman Reigns only cares about Roman Reigns, so kind of falling in line with the logic that we were all thinking, that Jay only beat up Sammy because he's not falling in line with Roman. He's only doing it to stand in line with his brother because Jimmy was about to suffer the consequences for Jay's actions at the hands of Roman Reigns. So really smart storytelling there. And he says that Cody's being smart by aligning himself with Sami Zayn. They need a united front to take out the Bloodline, and they're just trying to, both Sami and Cody, trying to beat the Bloodline to the punch. So that was the SmackDown LowDown for March 11th, 2023. Again, pretty ho-hum show this week, but we got to hear from the Usos, hear from Sheamus, hear from Rey and Dominic. So they got some star power in the interviews. The interviews weren't very long, but it was a decent show, all things considered, recapping what I thought was an overall kind of average edition of SmackDown. Nothing too great outside of the Rey Mysterio induction. The show closing angle was good. Not as great as what we got on Raw last week, but still good stuff. So thank you guys for checking out my review of the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.